Dorota.
Hi.
I've been looking at all these offerings that you're putting up, and the one that caught my eye was this wonderfully organised wardrobe. And I look at my wardrobe and I see the accumulation over many years of things that I just never throw away. Some of them get relegated to dog walking or gardening status.
Mm-hmm.
But what's left, I use very sparingly, really, because I pick out just one or two things, and that's my go-to set of clothes for the whole summer or whole winter. And I look at all the rest and think, what do I do about them? So I'm just imagining that I'm like loads of people on your list who are in the same position, who've got stuff that's been there for yonks. And they never quite get around to doing it. They think they can do it themselves, just like I think I can do it myself, but I don't. So what would you do with people like me? How would you help?
You know, it sounds a little bit like having a garden that you are well used to, and maybe haven't got motivational energy to get around to keeping you know, in good nick all of these places, but some of the places are kind of your favorite, and that's where you get to your respite and your joy. But maybe some of them are kind of a bit of a guilty feeling, or maybe a bit kind of underwhelming feeling. I mean, maybe even overwhelming if there is some kind of weeds growing somewhere in the corner, right?
Well, I bought one top last year and I wore it throughout the summer. Every time I went out, that was the one thing I wore. Well, it
Yes,
would have been a
you
beautifully
know,
empty wardrobe if I just stuck with that.
yes, it's a lovely example, because the new top that you wore a lot is something that it feels new in your use or in your energy, and whereas things that are kind of just sitting and you haven't looked at them because they're a little bit, you don't know exactly what to do with them, are a little bit stale energy, and so naturally you are not gonna remember or feel like rummaging for that stale energy in the morning. You will just look for something that is most likely to give you a good enough
Absolutely.
experience on the day.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And of course, yes, we can all Google how to do this, and there are so many before and after photos and the methods, and you know, decluttering documentaries are so popular now. But still, walking towards that staleness somewhere, it's not a fun thing to do on your own. I mean, this time of year, spring helps, and so quite a few people I see, you know, reporting, oh, you know, I've used the lockdown time to do some sorting out in my clothes. But where my heart breaks a little bit hearing those reports is that a kind of a quick sort out so that you feel a little bit refreshed and happier, and you've done something and it looks different, you know, in a kind of one quick rummage, is not gonna give you sustainable joy and freshness of the type that the new outfit, because that in order to create a wonderfully organized wardrobe, it takes a little bit of thought, clarifying and heart searching, and kind of having a little bit of a new vision for what would be sweet and what would be helpful and what would give you that sense of lift, and kind of like wanting to play again or have fun or kind of express yourself again, rather than just lean into the familiar. So
yeah, that makes sense. So if I were to invite you into my bedroom and I opened the wardrobe doors and said, Dorota, look at that, where would you start?
You know, actually, I take people through the whole process of both sorting out the storage, how things are organized, what to keep, what to let go of. And also in my longer program, I also include the component of experimenting with outfits again, because usually people assume that to have like enough to wear, it means having a certain number of garments, and of course the more the better. The more garments you have, the more you've got to wear. But actually, beyond certain just right number for you, it's overwhelming. And what makes for joy and fun and self-expression is actually having outfits, putting together outfits that feel just right, that uplift you. And putting together outfits is a little bit of skill again. It's like, how do you match things, and how do you just accessories, and how to match the mood with, which outfit would be just right for them, so an occasion. So that is not something we normally have an opportunity to learn, where everyone sort of just does it through trial and error, and whoever impresses them, their friends or their relatives, in terms of visual role modeling. But it takes a little bit of, again, playful experimentation to find out what it is that would work particularly for you. And so, but for this course that I will be offering on the bank holiday Monday, not Monday, it's a Friday, by May bank holiday, I want to say, I'll be helping people to rethink and expand the storage options, because I noticed that it's hard for people to just to start with the decluttering, the pruning bit, even though in some ways it could create space. But it feels like the first expectation is to lose stuff, and it's kind of a bit harsh. And on the other hand, I noticed that if I help people to rethink kind of, how they hold clothes, where they keep them, how they are laid out, and in particular how to expand the available space and available furniture storage, like expand the storage capacity, so that then you feel that you can absolutely have enough, because there is so many shelves or drawers or rails that actually, if you then chose clothes to that capacity, you will feel you have enough. And also I teach people how to arrange things so that they look so much more beautifully, and they're much more simpler to handle, that then that's kind of would be my starting point. Because this is, you would have that injection of freshness, not necessarily through thinking about clothes and outfits yet, but through everything being well held, and you feeling, when you open the drawers or the doors in the morning, that already feels like, yes, you're already encouraged. And when you have that wave of encouragement of freshness, then you are more likely to maybe experiment with some outfits, or try something new.
So it's not just a question of getting rid of things, it's a question of starting with the reorganization, so that we get this visual image which is welcoming and a fresh look at what we've already got. So looking at my storage systems as well as the contents of my storage.
Yes, because how things grow around us organically. We buy a wardrobe here, a cupboard there, a box or something, and so things develop organically, kind of spontaneously, which is not the same as having a system that really works well. Think about, I was asked to water a neighbor's garden last summer, and I had not known that both of them were landscape gardeners. And I was amazed what a joy that garden was to be in. It's like the same size garden to where I live, but it was like a different level of experience. That everything, how things were sitting, the tall plants worked with small plants, and there were shady corners and the sunny dappled areas, and everything was just that had extra touch of grace and beauty and joy. And that's the difference between really giving it a little bit more design, more purposefulness, and more alignment with the capacity of the lay land. What was the expression? The lay of the land.
The lie of the land. Yes.
The lie of the land. Yes. So because people's spaces differ also. The nooks and crannies you have, or the furniture you have, could be use the way plants can be used in the garden with much more inspiration and ease and beauty and grace. And I love, this is like, I love nothing more than supporting people to access that level of just, wonderful feeling.
So you're bringing the mindset of a landscape gardener to your client's storage systems.
Kind of, and in particular also how to have much more storage space than the traditional furniture allows, because for example, I recommend, one of the things I recommend, a kind of quirky but really effective things I recommend, is using bookshelves instead of wardrobes where that's possible, with a particular way of folding clothes, and it takes much less space and it's easier to look at. But if you bought a particular or have a particular bookcase, it might indeed, like the one behind you, it might have perhaps 6 shelves in a tall segment, and you could easily add a shelf or two. And these days it's very easy to buy a shelf insert, or to make a shelf insert or add additional shelf is relatively simple. And then for the same volume of space in your room, you can have more shelves, and therefore you can arrange things more spaciously on them, so that nothing is squashed and kind of overwhelmed. And so that kind of thing, people don't have an opportunity to upgrade the system in this way until they take that opportunity, because it takes a little bit of going beyond to what you are used to visually. Like when you look at it every day, you stop noticing what's there, and you definitely don't see what else there could be. It just seems it is how it is.
So can you just give me a very brief outline of what your workshop, your online course is going to be? Because I'm really getting the sense of, wow, that would make a difference to me if I had better organization, more visual appeal when I open the wardrobe, rather than doing this thinking, where's that blouse I thought I had somewhere?
Yeah, so we will look at ways to expand the number of shelves or drawers or rails within the space and the system you've got. Very often, so that's one, and and very often we can find the additional things somewhere else where they are blocking space and not being used. So a problem somewhere else can become a solution in this system. Okay. And then we'll look at arranging clothes in a particular way so that we minimize creasing and maximize ease of handling, which is maybe a little bit different to what people are used to, but so much easier and more beautiful looking. And then we'll have a think about how to have the experience of daily handling of clothes when dressing and laundry and stuff like that, so it doesn't feel like a drag, but it feels actually like a delight, that through a mix of method and attitude, if you wish. And then people will have an opportunity to plan, to translate what we're talking about into very small doable steps of how to walk towards that vision that they might see possible for themselves from the conversation, and from being having an opportunity to ask questions and to look at some photos that people will send of the starting points, because I can make a lot of very simple recommendations for tweaks that can make all the difference.
And then once I've got everything looking beautiful, what's the final step in terms of what do I keep? What do I give away? What do I remix? Are you talking about that too?
So one of the things that I love, a principle that I love, is a principle of trust, a principle of sufficiency, to trust that the size of the space you have or the size of the wardrobe you have, once the capacity is maximized from my class, for example, to trust that is actually enough for your life. Like if you had that this much and it was beautifully organized and beautiful to look at, it's more than enough to create as many outfits as you need for all of your life's occasions. And it would be much easier to create them, because fewer items means actually it's easier to choose items and experiment if it's few good items rather than having too many that you don't even want to look at. And so the natural people, I'm guessing that you could do this bit on your own with the infrastructure of the layout and the beauty. I would guess that this would encourage people to naturally then go, okay, so if I just trust that this shelf full of t-shirts is enough, then let me pick my best t-shirts to that volume. So people could do this. And of course, I do also offer the moral and practical support for pruning part as well, because like anything else, it's easier with support, but it's that will be the natural next step of choosing or which items to keep in this beautifully organized system.
So that might just be the little nudge that gets me sorting things out and having something that really works, is beautifully organized, is attractive to look at, and leaves me thinking, oh, what shall I wear today? And approaching it with a very different mindset from, oh, what am I going to put on today?
I hope so, Jo, because you are a gardener, and when you think about that metaphor, I think it will guide you well.
Yeah.
You already know a lot about transforming something for more life, or for reclaiming life, boosting life again for the new season. So yes, absolutely, just like that. So have a think, and if anyone listening to this is inspired, then either get in touch or look up the class I'm offering on the bank holiday in May, because here's an opportunity to get a little bit of training towards that higher landscaping level of organization, rather than just sorting something a little bit but it not lasting long.
Well, I've got a final word to say to anybody who's watching this. Dorota, you performed a miracle with my husband in changing his thinking about what of the many overwhelmingly long lists of items and house renovations he should tackle next. And it's made a huge difference. So to all of you out there listening, if you want that sort of miracle, then please contact Dorota.
Oh, thank you so much. It's just simplifying spaces and bringing more grace to them. It's just such a sweet process. So thank you. I'm glad to hear that something of my passion and of my love of grace has trickled across. Thank you, Jo. Thank you for chatting me about this.